Welcome back to Life Turns, the place where everyday moments turn into unforgettable lessons and heartfelt stories. Today, I want to share something deeply personal, something that started with nothing more than a household problem, but turned into a moment that changed the way I look at my son, at myself, and at what family really means. It all began on a rainy evening, the kind where you just want to curl up with a blanket and a warm cup of tea. But instead of peace and quiet, I was greeted by the sound of rushing water, a sound that instantly filled me with dread. At first, I thought maybe the tap had been left open, but when I went to the kitchen, I realized the sound was much louder, more chaotic. My heart sank as I opened the basement door, only to find water gushing out from the pipes, flooding the floor. In that moment, panic took over. I tried to grab towels, buckets, anything to stop the water, but it was useless. The pipes had burst, and there was no quick fix in sight. I remember standing there, feeling small and powerless in my own home, watching years of memories and hard work threatened by something as ordinary as water. I must have stood frozen for longer than I realized because suddenly, I heard my son's footsteps behind me. He had been in his room studying, but he rushed down when he heard the commotion. His eyes widened when he saw the mess, but unlike me, he didn't panic. He put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Mom, don't worry. We'll handle this." Those words, simple as they were, gave me a little bit of strength in the middle of all the chaos. Still, I couldn't stop the tears welling up in my eyes. We tried calling the plumber, but it was already late, and they told us they couldn't come until the next morning. That meant a whole night in a house where the water had shut off, the floors were wet, and the smell of dampness was already creeping in. I was overwhelmed, thinking about where we would sleep, how we would manage dinner, and whether the furniture would be ruined. That's when my son did something I didn't expect. He took out his phone, tapped a few times, and then turned to me with a calm smile. "Pack a bag, Mom," he said. "We're going to a hotel tonight." At first, I resisted. The thought of spending money on a hotel room when we were already going to face expensive repairs felt reckless. I shook my head and told him we could just sleep on the couch in the living room, away from the water. But he didn't listen. He put his hand gently on mine and said, "You've always taken care of me. Let me take care of you this time." And those words struck me harder than I could ever have imagined. My son, the little boy I used to carry in my arms, was standing tall and asking me to trust him, to let him provide comfort the way I always had for him. The drive to the hotel was quiet, the kind of quiet that says more than words ever could. I kept sneaking glances at him as he drove. His face was calm, his hands steady on the wheel, and I realized how much he had grown, not just in age, but in maturity, in kindness, in love. I thought about all the nights I had stayed up worrying about bills, about meals, about making sure he had everything he needed, never once asking for help or letting him see how tired I was. And now, here he was, stepping into that role for me, without hesitation, without complaint. When we reached the hotel, I felt a lump in my throat. It wasn't anything fancy, just a simple, clean room with 2 beds and warm lights. But to me, it felt like a palace because it was chosen by my son, because it was his way of saying, "Mom, you don't have to carry everything alone anymore." As I set down my bag, I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I tried to hide them, but he noticed. He walked over, sat beside me, and wrapped his arm around my shoulders. "It's okay," he whispered. "We're in this together. You've done enough for me, more than enough. Let me do something for you." Those words broke me in the most beautiful way. All the years of sacrifice, all the times I had denied myself little comforts so he could have more, all the silent struggles, it all felt seen in that moment. My son wasn't just my child anymore. He was my partner in life, my reminder that love comes full circle. That night, we ordered takeout, something we rarely did because I always insisted on cooking. We laughed over fries and burgers, sharing stories from his childhood, remembering the silly things he used to do. I looked at him, this young man who once clung to my hand crossing the street, and realized he was no longer just my little boy. He was a man with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit of generosity. As I lay in the hotel bed later that night, I stared at the ceiling and let my heart finally rest. For once, I didn't worry about tomorrow, about the repairs, about the bills. All I thought about was how lucky I was to have raised a son who not only respected me, but loved me enough to step up when I needed it most. And I promised myself that I would remember this moment whenever life felt heavy again. Sometimes, life teaches us lessons in the strangest ways. Who would have thought a broken water pipe could lead to one of the most meaningful nights of my life? It wasn't about the hotel, or the food, or even the comfort of a dry bed. It was about realizing that the love we pour into our children doesn't vanish. It grows, it returns, and it surprises us when we least expect it. And maybe that's the beauty of family. It's not about who does more or who sacrifices the most. It's about standing together, picking each other up, and reminding one another that none of us have to go through life alone. My son reminded me of that, and it's a memory I'll carry in my heart forever. The next morning, I woke up to the soft sound of my son moving quietly around the hotel room. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming, because it felt so unusual to be in a different bed, away from the house I had worked so hard to build. But then I opened my eyes and saw him sitting at the small desk, sipping a cup of coffee, looking thoughtful. He turned when he noticed me awake and smiled, and that smile told me more than words ever could. He was proud to be there for me. I stretched, feeling the weight of yesterday's stress slowly fade. The night before, I had cried silently into my pillow, overwhelmed not just by the broken pipes, but by the realization that my little boy was no longer little. He was a man who could carry burdens with me. That thought stayed with me, even in my sleep, and waking up to see him like that, so calm and grown up, made my heart ache with both pride and a touch of sadness. He asked if I had slept well, and before I could answer, he started listing the things we needed to handle that day. "Mom, I'll go back to the house first, check the damage, and meet the plumber. You don't have to rush. Stay here, have breakfast, rest a little. You deserve it." The way he said it, so practical, so responsible, made me realize just how much he had been watching me all these years. He had absorbed the way I handled crises, the way I kept things together when life tried to break me, and now he was giving that same strength back to me. I shook my head at first, telling him I should be there too, but he looked me in the eye and said something that cut straight through my resistance. "Mom, you've always been the strong one. But even the strongest person needs to breathe. Let me handle it this time." It was as if he was holding a mirror to me, reminding me of all the times I had told him to rest when he was tired, to let me take care of things. Now, the roles were reversed, and it felt both strange and beautiful. Later that morning, we went down to the hotel's small breakfast area. It wasn't anything fancy, just scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee, but I couldn't remember the last time I sat across from my son in such a calm, relaxed setting without thinking about bills or chores. We talked about little things, his classes, his favorite books, and even the silly movies we used to watch together when he was younger. Each laugh we shared chipped away at the heavy wall of stress I had built inside me. At one point, he leaned back and said quietly, "Mom, I know you always think you have to be the one holding everything together. But I need you to know something. You're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'll always be here." My throat tightened instantly. I tried to smile, but tears rolled down before I could stop them. All I could do was nod because if I spoke, my voice would crack into pieces. We finished breakfast, and he insisted on paying for everything. I tried to reach for my purse, but he shook his head with a grin. "No, Mom. This one's on me. You've given me everything. Let me give something back." It wasn't about the money. It was about the gesture, the reversal of roles, the fact that he was proud to shoulder responsibility. When we drove back to the house later that day, I was nervous. The plumber was already there, working on the pipes, and the sight of tools scattered across the floor made my chest tighten again. But my son stayed calm, asking questions, checking on the repairs, making sure everything was being done right. I stood there watching, realizing he wasn't just doing this for me. He was doing it because he genuinely wanted to protect our home, our life, our memories. As the plumber explained the costs and timeline, I started to worry again. The expenses were high, and my instinct was to calculate every dollar in my head, figuring out what I could cut back on. But before I could even finish my thoughts, my son placed his hand over mine and whispered, "We'll manage this together." He didn't say, "You'll manage." He said, "We." And that single word lifted a burden I had been carrying alone for years. That evening, once the pipes were finally fixed and the water began flowing again, we stood in the kitchen. The floor was still damp, the air still heavy with the smell of moisture, but the house was ours again. I turned to him and said, "Thank you, son. I don't think you realize how much this means to me." He looked at me with that same steady gaze and replied, "I know, Mom. And I mean it when I say I'll always be here. You've done enough. Now it's my turn to take care of you." Those words echoed in my heart long after the repairs were done, long after the hotel stay was just a memory. I realized then that love isn't a one-way street. It flows back and forth, sometimes in ways we least expect. And as parents, we often forget that our children are learning not just from what we say, but from what we do, how we love, and how we endure. My son had been learning all along, and now he was showing me that he was ready to stand by my side. That experience changed me. It taught me to let go, to accept help without feeling guilty, to see my son not just as the child I raised, but as a man capable of giving me the same strength I once gave him. And in that, I found peace. In the days that followed, I noticed a change in how I looked at my son. It wasn't just pride anymore. It was a deep, humbling respect. Every time I saw him walk into the room, I remembered that night in the hotel and the way his words had wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. I found myself smiling more, worrying less, and even allowing him to take the lead on small things that I would usually handle alone. It wasn't easy at first. Letting go of control never is. But I began to realize that accepting his help didn't make me weak. It made us stronger. One evening, as we sat together at the dinner table, he brought it up again. "Mom," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "do you know why I insisted on the hotel that night?" I looked at him curiously, and he continued, "Because I remember when I was little and scared of thunderstorms. You always told me the storm would pass, and you held me until I fell asleep. That night, when the pipes burst, I saw the storm in your eyes. I just wanted to be the one to calm it for you." His words pierced straight through me. I hadn't even realized how much of an impression those little moments had left on him. To me, they were just part of being a mother, soothing his fears, giving him safety when the world felt big and frightening. But to him, those memories had become lessons in love. And now, he was using those lessons to take care of me. I reached across the table, took his hand in mine, and said, "You don't know how much that means to me." He smiled and squeezed my hand back, and in that moment, I felt something shift, like the bond between us had deepened, moving from parent and child to something even stronger. Two people carrying life's weight together. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. The pipes were fixed, the house dried, and the routine settled back into place. But something inside me was forever changed. I found myself less afraid of the future because I knew I wasn't walking into it alone. My son had proven that when storms came, Whether they were made of water, money, or life's endless challenges, he would stand beside me, steady and strong. One Sunday afternoon, as we were folding laundry together, I decided to tell him something I had never said out loud before. You know, I used to lie awake at night, wondering if I was enough. If I was giving you the life you deserved. I was so worried that I'd fail you somehow. He looked up from the shirt he was folding, surprised. Mom, he said gently, you never failed me. Everything I am today is because of you. That's why I wanted to take care of you when the pipes burst. Because I wanted you to feel the same safety you always gave me. Tears welled up again, and I couldn't stop them this time. I realized that all those nights of worry, all those sacrifices, all the hidden tears, they hadn't gone unnoticed. He had seen them in his own way, even if I thought I was protecting him from my struggles. Children see more than we think, and they carry those lessons deep within them. That night, I wrote in my journal, something I hadn't done in years. I wrote about the burst pipes, the hotel stay, the laughter over burgers, the quiet promises, and the overwhelming gratitude I felt. I wanted to capture it all, so I would never forget that moment when my son showed me just how much he had grown. Sometimes, life gives us gifts wrapped in chaos. And if we look closely, we realize the storm isn't there to break us but to show us how strong our love truly is. Months later, whenever I walk past the part of the house where the pipes had burst, I don't feel dread anymore. Instead, I smile. Because I know that what could have been just another stressful disaster became one of the most powerful reminders of love in my life. Every time I hear the water flowing through the pipes now, I think of my son's voice, steady and calm, telling me, "You're not alone anymore." And I know that as long as we walk side by side, no matter what life throws our way, we will always find a way to turn brokenness into something beautiful. That is the lesson I carry forward, the lesson my son unknowingly taught me. Love doesn't just survive storms, it grows stronger in them. So if you're listening to this story, I want you to remember something. Never underestimate the way your love shapes your children. They may not always say it, and they may not show it right away, but one day, when you least expect it, they'll return that love to you in ways you never imagined. And when they do, let yourself accept it. Don't push it away out of pride or habit. Let them take care of you, because that's their way of saying thank you for all the invisible battles you fought for them. For me, it took a burst pipe and a hotel room to learn that lesson. For you, it might be something different. But the truth remains the same. Family isn't about being perfect or never struggling. It's about standing together when the struggles come, about reminding each other that no one has to carry the weight alone. And that, my friends, is the heart of this story. A broken pipe became a bridge, a hotel room became a sanctuary, and a son's words became a mother's greatest comfort. And even now, when I close my eyes, I can still hear his voice, calm and steady. "Mom, you've done enough. Let me take care of you."